Welcome. We've got, this is the Aqua Cure HHO machine today. And oh, I have something in the background here. Oh, it's better. So we did a post last night. I have to put it on the cleansing playlist, but there was a post last night and the music in the background we will turn off. It's a good way to start the video. All right, folks. So today, as promised, I'm going to go over the histamine, water balance, cell health, and a little bit of like where detox sort of starts. You know, you can start macro and work your way small, or you can start micro and work your way large. But anyway you slice it, the cell is the parts we're made up of, and they have to eat and they have to poop. So consider that for a while in the processes of life when you're stuck in chemistry or you're stuck in the propaganda rhetoric of what health is out there in mainstream. If it's a dead image, if it's a singular marker of chemistry, if it's a study of a dead parameter, if it's a synthetic vitamin, drug, poison, pharmaceutical, then it's not life. And we have to use those tools, of course, but to identify them as the meaning of life and health is a travesty, to say the least. So process is what I got onto. And so I've studied who's getting the healthiest processes, who's reaching health, and how over the past 30 years. I don't care how someone's getting results, because bottom line is if you're dying of cancer, you want to get better. If you're dying of broken bones, you want to get your bones fixed. If you're dying of a terrible cold and flu that they call a weaponized COVID, SARS, whatever, then you're going to want results, right? So who's getting results? And then we backtrack as to how. That's the basis of why I'm successful and why there's thousands of people walking the planet, including myself, that would not be walking the planet if modern medicine had taken their case. To exemplify or accentuate my point, there's a book called Confessions of a Medical Heretic by Confessions of a Medical Heretic. I'll get the guy's name later, but he has a quote in that book. It's written by a medical doctor. And the quote in the book is, if modern medicine was to disappear off the face of the earth, all 90% of all illness would disappear with it. And you read a book by D.C. Jarvis called Vermont Folk Medicine, written in the 60s, and you see this man's story of this physician who went off into the wilderness out in Vermont, well, not the wilderness, but a small town, and discovered that they didn't, quote, need him. And they didn't have a doctor. They didn't have a town doctor. That's why he went there. And then he learned from them. And so his book, Vermont Folk Medicine, is about how he learned from the town folk how to be a better healer and a doctor. It's just astounding. And so he wrote about honey, apple cider vinegar, Lugol's iodine, a few other things. And those are things not written about a whole lot. So you can figure out why by watching those. So back to this. This is, I'll show you the machine very briefly here. It's not something I normally do, but that's it right over here. Let's see if we can get my hand in here. Right there. So that's called an Aqua Cure. And George Wiseman developed that, and I use it. So it turns H2O into HHO. So it turns it into hydrogen ions and hydroxyl radicals, OHs, and it expands the water. And that's what I studied. It was about a couple hundred testimonials since 1986 of people who have used these machines and how they're being used around the world. And so I've seen a noticeable difference in my health. And I don't even know if I'd be still able to go if it wasn't for this stuff. But right now it's pumping in the hydrogen gas. And if you look at H2O, what's hydrating about water? Certainly not oxygen. Hydrogen, hydrate. Hydrogen hydrates. So I could also pull this off and put it on like a cut or a wound or a sore area. And there's another actual attachment for that. But of course, it just turned off. So I'm going to turn it off for now. And I had it on an hour-long cycle. Very effective. So you could put that little air, the hydrogen gas on, like if I have an ache where I overuse these muscles from typing, then I'll put it on there and it just cools it off and soothes it. And it's 2,500 for the machine, so it's probably going to go up more. And George makes them himself. So George Wiseman, lots of videos on YouTube. We might watch one, but it ties in with cell health. And so for me, wake up this time of year, and it's usually, if I get up at 8, usually by around 10, 11, 12, I'm sort of coming out of this fall funk. Because when I sleep this time of year, the veil between the living and the dead is very thin. And I wake up and I don't know if I'm doing enough. There's no such thing as ego protection in my world. There's no purple rays, there's no force fields. That's all horse shit to me. It's all, I'm sorry to say if you're doing it, I'm not bashing you. It just doesn't work for me. Because reality is, if it's all one, then what are you hiding from if it's all one? And to me, it's the hollow flute. It's got to come in, it's got to be acknowledged, processed, and let go of, like wind through a screen. The screen acknowledges the wind and then lets it pass through. And that's a safer model, because identity of any sort of, I'm protected from that. That's what's not questioned in people that use these force fields. So what is it if the rubber hits the road, what is it you're protecting yourself from if it's all one? If you're one with the universe, why do you need protection? Of course, in the dualistic world, I need protection from outside forces that are going to, invade my earth suit. So you could respond with that, and that would be valid. All right. So the hydrogen machine hydrates, helps the cells work more efficiently. Hydrogen can be made into bombs, can be made into, I actually have a blowtorch attachment for this machine. I don't use it because I don't want to turn up that much hydrogen gas and cause potential, flammable stuff. So the way I'm using it, I pump it into the water and drink the water, which expands the water. Like I put it in here, expands the water 1,000 times. It says, so the water electrically, frequency wise, probably expands somewhat. We probably need to talk about that and work that out, how that actually works on some level too with George. But here we go. We're going to go into a screen share here. And this is kind of the nuts and the bolts of the talk. So today, let's go through the 21. Let's go through the 21 day real quick. I don't know that it's the toughest part of the cleanse. The way I set it up, usually day 10 through 16, 17 is the toughest part, because the first week enthusiasm is over. The second week, you'll notice on my thing here, why am I doing this in challenges? So see, we're on Saturday, day 13 now. See, accountability. So what were my SMART goals, right? So my SMART goals are very basic. Again, I told people I was going to stick to the basic food chart, which let's go back to the fall cleanse here. So for those of you that sort of watch one of these and you don't watch all of them, then I do my best to kind of show you but these all kind of fit together. Okay. So the basic food chart, see, I'm doing the basic recommends and the basic food chart. So I'd say the main proteins have been a raw salmon roll with carrots and cucumber and lettuce, with a dipping sauce with real homebrewed shoyu. That's from Mitoku, Mitoku. I buy that in bulk. And then vegetable wise, cabbage, Chinese cabbage. Last night we had a watercress dandelion salad we made. There's golden berries in the garden, strawberries, raspberries in the garden here, fresh. There's New Zealand spinach, but I'm focusing on these power greens that come in this plastic container. And then carrot, celery, onions, always a staple this time of year. Roots are becoming more of a staple, like parsnips, rutabaga, turnips, lots of round roots. This is the time of year for round roots. And then a little bit of spice. So the spices are, I have a radish and an onion salad raw that's now 8 days old. I made it last Friday. And now it's finally, it's the salt, the lemon juice, and the oil is broken down the tougher beets. So it's quite delicious. If you want to lose weight, I'm doing fruit. Right now, there's some of your apples and pears. So we added pears to the watercress dandelion salad, because as a chef, you've got bitter, spicy, which those two have, the more the watercress than the dandelion. And then you want to add some sweet in there. And so if you're trying to lose weight, you'd add in maybe cucumber and lemon slices, and maybe some beets and raw carrots for your sweet. But you really want to avoid fruit if you're trying to lose weight on a cleanse. I can't say that enough. Lemon, kiwi in season, maybe a Granny Smith low sugar green apple, lime. Grapefruit for some is the bomb, but others it really messes with liver detox. And if you look up grapefruit and the liver detox, it's not good. And then for me, I'm not doing much carbs. I seem to like, I'm not exercising as much. I'll probably go out. If I am, then I generally have more carbs. But for me, this time of year, a split pea, oh, spilt, gotta change that. Split pea soup, beets work well. Carrots work really well. We'll try some sunchokes in a couple of days. And then I've had a little bit of brown rice gruel in the cleanse. It didn't really work that well. Had a little bit of whole oat gruel. That worked one night and not another. And then for me, I'm doing raw liver as a main protein, the raw salmon, the raw tuna, cooked shrimp in the rolls. I've got some whey protein, some kefir, doing some yogurt, soft boiled eggs. So I kind of am doing all this, sea vegetables, fish. And then down here, I'm doing chia and flax. So you can see this is a good chart, and it's not too challenging. So that with the supplements. And then if you haven't seen the supplements, that's on this page. And please do a freeze frame, pause it until you can have a look at this. Today I will have a shake at some point soon, and I'm doing my fiber right now. So like right now I'm pulling out my psyllium and greens with my GI Adsorb, putting them in my mouth. I'm going to start swallowing them. And that's part of the week 3 theme. If you notice on the 21-day, week 3 guidelines is sort of, we're pulling stuff out this week, binding, and then next week is sort of like, hey, let's add some good tenants in. And that's the prebiotics and the probiotics. So the raw sunchoke salad is a prebiotic salad. I will know how well I'm doing by how much gas I have after that. It's a good test. Cooked onion and carrot puree soup. That's a high soluble fiber. So that with a little bit of a kraut will be a great. The beet and radish salad. Maybe I'm not going to do that. Next Saturday, I'm kind of shooting. I'm aiming for a water fast. And then I don't know if I might be ending my cleanse on Friday. Sometime around Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I will end because I did start 2 days earlier. I'm actually on day 15 right here. This least as far as coffee, day 15, 16 off coffee and most of the stuff. I like to get started early on my cleanses. So I'm doing a big gathering on Sunday, October 30th. So I know I'm not going to be cleansing there. And then Saturday, to have a day where I'm out with a bunch of people and fasting the day before may not work. So I might do a morning fast and then eat in the middle of the day on Saturday, then not eat again until Sunday morning. We'll see. And then Friday is our community dinner next week. So generally that day will be a lie down a lot. And then also a note will be next Friday at least will be garden play and plants. And that was actually part of today. No, we're not going to fast and we're not going to intermittent fast. This is garden day. So we buried our number 2. We buried our BMs, composted, and transplanted. Oops. Transplanted some, we'll just call them excess growth plants. So that's kind of what's been going on for me there. And let's highlight these 2 because let's put those in maybe a green because we're not sure we're even going to do anything with that. So we'll put those in a light green. And that's kind of how my week's going to look. If you're starting the cleanse, a few of you are just running a little bit past me. You've got to figure out, like, do you want to stick to the end? And if you don't want to, then it's a process. And please, I have open office hours tomorrow morning, 9 to 11 a.m. And then the last Thursday of office hours is Thursday, 5 to 7. And then again, next Sunday morning before I leave for the Weston Price group, 9 to 11 a.m., I'll have open office hours, and that will close off on October 30th. So that will close off the cleanse support, at least officially. I will not be sending emails after that either, but the groups will still be going another week or two. So I'll keep the pages open and the support going. If you want to start a cleanse later, then you will certainly be able to do so. Okay, 21 days out. There's my supplements there. I just started Allerplex. No, that's a lung, adrenal, liver product. Lots of fenugreek in it. I really do well with that. I haven't started a lung-based herbal blend yet, but I'm going to look at that. And then I started the Moors and the energy. Those are talked about. We're going to talk about that in the cell cleanse. And I'm off the VRM2 now, which was quite significant mind states. And again, this depression, I'm wondering if it's a die-off. And then for drainage, liver and kidney. And we'll be talking about those in a minute with the cell part. So you can see this top cell detox strategies there. And we're going to go through that in a minute. There we go. So we have water. We have top 5. You know, I didn't pull up the histamine document. We have the cell owner's manual. There's the stuff we're looking for. And now we need histamine. And there we go. All right, and then we're going to search. So this is the way you use this stuff, folks. If you have a document in the Google Drive here, like my recipe favorites or whatnot, Control F is always your best friend. I can't state that enough. So Control F, and we'll type in dehydration. And see, we get 6 hits. We've talked about this upper part, and there it is again as a drought managing neurotransmitters. See right there. So what we probably could use are some diagrams here. Yeah, I never fixed this. I believe this table is suspect foods for histamine response, we'll call it. Somehow that table got messed up when I uploaded it into here. All right. So those are suspect. We can put question mark. For me personally, the vinegar stuff is good as long as it's healthy vinegar. The fermented foods are definitely helpful. Wine, champagne, and beer, not good. Dried fruit generally is okay. Citrus fruits, not good for me. I'm an allergy person. Aged cheeses are dependent. Nuts, I don't do on a cleanse. Vegetables, I generally don't do much of these anyway. And smoked fish, I do some of that and seem to do okay, but it'd be worth looking at. And then you can see what causes high histamine levels. We're not looking at that. We're looking at the cell stuff here. So we're going to go back and forth here and do our best to help you understand how important. So hydration has little to do with water. I want you to be clear about that. Your water intake does not necessarily equate with hydration. Yes, it does as a major factor of hydration, but there's also something called lipid hydration. And if you aren't familiar with that, we'll go through it a little bit today. And I just lost my last supplement, fell down. All right. I guess that means we're not using that supplement. Funny how things work. And then stuff falls on the ground, I don't see it for 3 or 4 days. All right. So let's start with this. Do you know what water knows? And so this is from the Scalar Wave Spooky People, my PEMF mat. Spooky 2 is they led me to my PMF mat and my Rife machine. So you will not live for more than 3 days without water. You're not going to live for more than a few minutes without air. So air, top priority, water, second priority, food, third priority. You could say affection, closeness, community, intimacy, touch would be on that list also. but we won't include it here because it doesn't have the science behind it. It's, monkeys that aren't touched, human babies that aren't touched and loved, they don't grow as big. The data is quite clear on that. Okay. So this guy, does water have memory? And you can see right here. Oh, that was cool. I didn't notice I didn't think I could do that. Let's make it smaller though. People predicted white blood cells to stay where they are, but surprisingly, they were activated to produce an immune response. So, see, he diluted solutions of antibodies until no traces of the biomolecules could be found. Then he put white blood cells into the solution, and it was just the water molecule somehow retained a memory of the antibodies that had previously been in contact with it. So water does have memory. So that's why I use the AquaCure. It's why I go to springs. If the memory of water is passing through a synthetic, RO machine, and there's not much consciousness behind it, and not much prayer, and not much thought, then see, imprinting water. And that's Muramoto's work, Hidden Messages in Water. Yeah, for example, if you want to cheer yourself up, pray sincerely to a cup of water and drink it. And then there's a spooky 2 scalar. See, they're talking about there. So water does have memory. And see, there's what I've been looking at. And if you want to look up your tap water, you can go to this link here, Environmental Working Group Tap Water Database, and see what's in it. Really important to see that. Now we're going to go to the histamine and the cell one. All right. So let's look at this. There's a tendency in healthcare to focus on pH without considering the membrane integrity. So the cell membrane is what keeps the water soluble stuff out from inside the cell. So pH and water chemistry is relatively easy to shift, see? Because the water compartments tend to quickly exchange. Water-related protocols prove beneficial, but short-term results, because they only temporarily compensate for these structural or lipid dysfunctions. In other words, they increase cell voltage, which is leaked by toxins in the small membrane. Clearing both the membrane toxins, the sources, and restoring cellular process is critical to the restoration of cellular health. So again, there's 3 main aspects of cell membrane power production: the lipids, see the fats, the pH differential must be balanced to enable electricity, and the raw materials, which is generally protein and fat again. And you see there's another version of that right here. Notice how copper and zinc are on the opposite side here. It's important to understand that. So the cell membrane is a chemical and electrical insulator. It's the brain of the cell. And this, again, this is Mark Squibb's Cell Owner's Manual, 2008 published. So there's a tendency in cleansing to concentrate on toxins as a topic and tying them, but they don't recognize that there's something to do with the liver here. It's described as an act instead of a natural body process. It's a natural process. The body's not a robot. So how do the toxins get into the cell membrane or the cell or the tissue in the first place? Why was the body unable to get rid of it? And how to restore natural functions. And that's what we're going through today. And see, this is what happens. Cell power weakness is a cause or cofactor in many diseases. So now let's go back over to the histamine. So hypertension is one of the main indicators of dehydration in the human body. So if you have high blood pressure, I have a document for this also describing the different types of hypertension. And if you'd like that link, you can always ask for it. It's just about a blood pressure and 7 or 8 or 9 types of blood pressure. I was able to isolate and some simple cures for that. So when there isn't enough water to manufacture hydroelectric energy for neurotransmission, in other words, nerve electrical impulses, histamine is activated. So histamine's involved, see? Histamine is a drought managing neurotransmitter. It produces pain, asthma, and allergies in a valiant effort at drought management. That should be enough to take away, folks. And then what you're doing is the body's like, oh shit, I don't have enough energy. And here's the quote: there is no such thing as illness. There's only a deficiency of energy, especially at this cell mitochondria level. There's no such thing as illness. There's only a deficiency of energy. You're going to see me, if you follow me enough, you're going to see the whole viral thing is contingent on your cell health, your cell membrane health, and how many particles are cruising around the plasma that the body can't use at all. In other words, L-tryptophan, when you make anything synthetically, there's wrong-handed molecules. So left-handed L-tryptophan, L-glutamine, L-tyrosine, you name it, you got it. That's left-handed molecule. Right-handed molecule is a D-isomer. It's called isomer. And those can't be used. And so what happens when you throw unusable molecules in a fluid stream? They tend to thicken and congest. And what are we looking at in America? So the body uses calcium to calcium bonds as a unit of stored energy. So the bones and the calcium deposits are thus energy storage areas. Histamine has the potential to release this energy, so active exchanges to the cell membrane can take place. So I got to show you some of you are going to be like, oh my God, what the hell is he talking about? So let's do a quick whiteboard on that. So this is called catabolism, and it's generally talked about more. So we're looking at calcium. Oh, it didn't change. Interesting. Block, please. There we go. Calcium to calcium bonds. Release energy. ATP to ADP equals release of energy. And this is catabolism. Equals energy, which equals, it's yang. Anabolism equals storage and, quote, potential energy. Like a log when you burn it. Log is yin, and the fire yang burns the log. That's the first part. So let's show you graphically then. So you've got these bones, and let's, again, forgive me, the bones we'll put in, we'll leave them in black. So you've got these bones here. And then you got these calcium bonds. It's kind of designated Ca plus. And then you've got another, we'll say this is the bond right here to a Ca. This is not the way it looks, folks, but you've got phosphorus involved, magnesium, crystalline deposits that get broken up. But nevertheless, when this bond here is broken, and you have a free calcium and a free calcium, then energy is released. And what does that cause? Poor bone density. So the consequence then, poor bone density from dehydration. Isn't that something? Wow, that should really cause you to think about that. We're going to clear this in a minute. We'll come back. All right, back to the other screen share. Okay, so histamine releases this energy. So we got this little bit of energy. And then it says the sodium-potassium regulation. Potassium should be in the cell and sodium outside the cell. When there isn't enough to keep this pump going, histamine becomes active and releases energy for the pump. And there's the osteoporosis comment. So let's go over to the, again, the Mark Squibb. So that's kind of what this is about here. Potassium inside the cell, sodium outside the cell. Inside here, see, at the lower part, you want the potassium in there and the sodium out there. So what happens when we're dehydrated? I don't think I do have this somewhere else, but I'm going to go back to a whiteboard then. And again, show, I've been wanting to do this for a while, and now I finally got it. So let's clear this drawing. All right, so let's draw a cell. Again, we'll do it black for the membrane and maybe gold for the, let's do gold for the outer membrane. Okay, there's the outer and the inner membrane of the cell. All right, so then you want the designation for potassium K, and that's potassium inside the cell. And then you want Na or sodium outside the cell, okay? What does sodium do though? It attracts water to itself, doesn't it? So if you have too much salt inside the cell, can you see what's going to happen? So what ends up happening is this balance here causes an electrical gradient. We'll just do that. And so there's a like lightning, there's an electrical gradient in the cell membrane here. And that's what they're talking about. The body has to pump the potassium in and pump the sodium out. That's called the sodium potassium pump. That's the basis of your life. In hair mineral analysis, which I use, the NAK, or the sodium to potassium ratio, they call the life force vitality ratio. So if it's off in your hair, we can actually measure for a $45 test. We can tell how your life force is doing at your cell membrane level, at least for the hair cells, right? Because that's what we're measuring. Is you cut your hair, you send it into the lab, they burn it to a crisp, and then they put in a little bit of water, and then they measure the mineral content and the pH and all that. So that is an important thing to understand, is this pump. So if the cell then, maybe we can go backwards. There we go. So if you can't keep this pump going, then what happens is the sodium stays in the cell, which causes dehydration of the cell, and it starts to turn into a shriveled raisin like that. If that's its normal size, see, then it turns into a shriveled raisin, and its functions decrease remarkably. They decrease remarkably. So let's go back again. To keep going back and forth so you guys get this, it's really a key stuff. Okay, let's go back down now. So when we get this, see, chronic diseases, decreased visual contrast, so that's the VCS test. And if you would like to see the VCS test, you type in VCS test online. See, VCS test login. And there it is. I have an account now for years. So see, there's my account. Visual contrast sensitivity. So you can see my biotoxin score. You want it, mine's dropped, it shows it there, but my results are not as good as they once were, okay? So see, biotoxins positive more recently, and not back as far as 2014 when I started this. So see, test positive, and my scores have been dropping. And so if you wanted to take the test, this is free. They might make you pay now to get the results. So you make a contribution there. It's worth a couple bucks, folks. This is a great testing system. So that was the visual contrast sensitivity, acuity, hormone imbalances, bioimpedance, phase angle, liver toxicity. So this is a cell thing. Autoimmune and membrane power, decreased healing capability. That's pretty much everything, folks. See, cell membrane causes hundreds of diseases. So read that for a second if you need to, pause it. And then there's a table here. And look, it's even showing you whether it's catabolic or anabolic. Quite brilliant. And the typical duration, see. Membrane health slightly below normal, might take 1 to 5 years. There's your parameters. Then another 2 to 5 years. Right here, all this stuff. So see where you are on this. And then another, they have a 3 to 10 years, and see the ringing of the ears, the hair loss. I'm in this stage with some of my stuff. Some of this from aging. Then another, so you can see over your lifetime, you can kind of see what's happening to most people. And then he's going through each and every one of these here. So we might look at this a little bit more later, but now we're going to go into solutions, okay? So detox strategies. This is from my cell cleanse. We'll go to that in a minute. It's my cell cleanse thing. So top 5 cell detox strategies. Controlling blood sugar. That's my foundation one of health, folks. You've got to keep your glucose under control. 80 grams of carbs a meal, maximum for anybody. If you're a paleo type, you got about 100-gram ration. And if you're a ketogenic type, you've got about 50-gram carb ration per day. A varied diet. Stopping eating. What they're saying there is eat your meals before 3, 4, 5, 6 p.m. And then burst training is very easy to do. That's basically exercise and bursts. And then top 5 strategies, okay? The tactics and treatments of downstream detox don't work really well. By the way, I believe this is, I don't know if this is Shane Morris or Daniel Pompa wrote this, but one of those dudes wrote it for Systemic Formulas. So the epidemic is at the cell. And I agree with that to a certain, they're trying to sell their true cellular detox package, which has been around, and mixed results. If you don't detox the cell, you'll never get well. That's kind of true. So true cell detox is not simply a colon cleanse. It's not a foot bath. It's not a raw. These are all parts of the cleanse we're doing. He's poking fun at that a little bit. See, they're helpful. They're too far downstream is his contention. Okay, well, tell us what we really want us to do. He wants us to focus on heavy metals, mold, and hidden infections. And guess what, folks? Through hair mineral analysis, lab work, my tongue readings, photographs of the eyes, and my assessment system, you can find out any of this for less than $300. Okay, so you apply the 5 R's of cell health. Remove the source of the problem. So that's habit change and self-care. Regenerate the cell membrane. If you think, so this is self-care and changing what you choose to do. Regenerate the cell membrane basically means eat raw protein and fat. It's that simple. Eat raw protein and fat. And if you're more of a carb type with lower protein, then you want to have healthy raw carbs, hopefully. Restore cellular energy. So he's talking about mitochondria and glutathione and blah, blah, blah. You want glutathione? Have raw cabbage family, watercress, arugula, radishes. All those have that sulfur spice, and sulfur is the backbone of glutathione. Thiol, Thiols, thiols they're a sulfur compound in these vegetables. That's why they're spicy. So raw onion family and raw cabbage family, thumbs up. Restore cellular energy there. Trying to keep you guys on a low cost thing here. Reduce cellular inflammation. Well, that's having your mineral ratios down and your fat right. So you got to have your zinc copper ratio, your sodium potassium intake, your calcium magnesium intake, all has to be balanced. And reestablish methylation, which basically means cell detox. You want your cells not to be constipated. So how are we going to do that? He goes through these downstream pathways. If you want to pause this, great. So practices include, let's put that in a list here. I haven't looked at this in a few years, to be honest. I've been working on other things. So let's put that in a list format here. So sleep, moving, spiritual practice, chiropractic care, body work, yoga, spending time in nature, therapeutic grade supplements, food mostly, pure, I'm going to put pure spring water or raw water, fermented foods, avoiding grain, sugars, and GMOs. Great. And then the true binding agents. He's got a whole deal, Mr. Pompa, that I didn't care for at all. Oh, my thing's the only one that works and no one else works. And Daniel, you know, that's a little pompous to say that, Mr. Pompa, I'll just say. And we should talk because I've seen different clays work quite well. I've seen zeolite work excellently, the standard process GI adsorb. He has this liquid thing they do. Great. But don't say you're the best because it's not. You're not the best. None of us is the best. I never say my stuff's the best. I say you try to give it, it's my stuff's good for this, not for this. And his stuff's good for this, not that. So there's 3 stages, and we're going to go through that on here. See, this is stage 1, the prep phase. There's a prep phase and a brain phase, and I forgot the middle phase. We'll go through that in a minute. Oh, the body phase, see? Prep phase and a body phase and a brain phase. There's an on and off cycle with the binders, see? That's what he's saying is you want to be on and off these binders, and you don't want them recirculating around the body. You don't want to retox or auto-intox because you can have, I guess I need to explain this. Key takeaway. So I think Mr. Pompa, we're done with him. Let's show you that though. Do we need to show you guys that? Ask me and we'll do that. Almost wondering if, yeah, we're gonna run out of time. So let's go back to, okay. Went through the histamine. There's another thing about this that you might want to look at. Heat generation, kundalini from the bones themselves. The bones are a piezoelectric property similar to quartz crystals, and that word is orgonite by Wilhelm Reich. So the bones, when you put pressure on them and use them, they develop a torus field comes off your bones, folks. Read that. Bone marrow breathing, see, practice. So we see how hydration, the circulatory system, and the nervous system are highly interdependent. So this cellular dehydration then is a very problematic thing. Low blood pressure. Charging water, see? And then there's the stuff you want to avoid if you have histamine. And you might even consider if you have dehydration. What are you going to do? So we're going to get rid of the histamine paper now. So during the prep phase, see, you want to, they're talking about 30 days prep phase, 30 days body phase, 30 days brain phase, and you got to do it pretty consistently back and forth. So you assist the body in preparing optimum liver, kidney function, cellular purification. So how are they doing that? See, membrane regeneration, I've used this product. It's quite interesting, Vista 1 and 2. Key ingredients, see cardiolipin, phospholipid, zeaxanthin, and then see the fats are in Vista 2. I'm taking the MORS right now, the methylation donor. So all methyl molecules are CH3, carbon and 3 hydrogens. And generally that's folic acid, B6 and B12. You'll see that as the key ingredients here. Energy is key nutrients for that ATP making energy. So the key ingredients there are this proquinolone quinone, glucodecolactone, coenzyme Q10, key ingredients on this one. And there's herbs in there. They're saying probiotics, fuck it, folks. Have sauerkraut, have beet kvass. I'm not selling probiotics much anymore. And I'm on liver and kidney. I wouldn't call it a liver building formula, but it is a liver support formula. I mean, Golden Seal's not building, folks. Give me a break. And these guys need to learn their herbal medicine more. And then comprehensive support for kidneys, I like that. For integrity of the kidney tissue, see? Good one there. And nutrition for the liver, including softening, purification, some support of the gallbladder as well. So this is what you're doing. You're increasing the amount of water. You're getting your cell membranes fats changed through the raw fats, the membrane regenerator here. So you see, that's just a great stuff. And we're going to look at the top 10 toxics. So you want to remove the source is the second R. So you want to remove the source, regenerate the cell membrane, restore cellular energy, reduce cellular inflammation, and reestablish methylation. That's the 5 steps in their model. So in the starting phase, then we're looking at what are the toxic top 10 and how can you get rid of one of these a week? Okay, I'm not going to go into household cleaners. Boy, that's pretty easy, folks. Get them outside, out of your house, in the garage, in sealed containers. And then there's solutions for non-toxic stuff here. See all the solutions here, wonderful solutions. Furniture, carpet, and appliances, glues, all kinds of stuff. You can read that. Pretty easy, right? You want to have raw water. Right now, the chemtrails here are crazy. People talking about the planetary liberation is at hand. And all I see is a sickening, gross, plane spray, scum sky here in Santa Cruz today. And I had a friend who's sensitive that didn't sleep last night. I slept great, but that's generally what happens to me. So air quality. So air conditioning, air return ventilator. What I would do is get fresh air, get out of the city, get out in the mountains, hopefully get away from the chemtrails if you can, because there's a lot of aluminum, a lot of microwave energy, a lot of strontium and barium, and then you might see lead, copper, toxic forms of copper, and other things in the chemtrails, depending on where you live. Mold loves radiation. So mold around the house, you can see what biotoxin from mold does here. Your food, you can change some things there. Toxic fat, see, good thing on food. Don't fry. Amalgam fillings, huge. Get your amalgams out. Get them out. Even if you have to have no teeth, I would rather have no teeth and live a higher quality of life than the shitty infection and mold and EMFs that give off from amalgams. There you go, folks. See, I wonder what Daniel's saying now. Daniel Pompa, now that the whole SARS-2 conspiracy scamdemic happened. I'm not anti-vaccine. If there's a problem in another country, I need to travel there, and for safety, sure, yeah, I'm not against it per se, but I'm not going to take a vaccine that wasn't done on a 10-year study before I take it. And what you're living through now, folks, is you're part of an experiment. If you had the jab, plastics are a big problem. Eliminate those. Use glass, and then toxic beauty products, and it lists what those are there. So you pick one of your 10 a week, and see EMFs, getting away from that. And there you go, folks. So we're kind of reaching down to the end here, and I hope that you got the solutions you wanted. If I didn't explain it well enough, then I would love to hear from you about what you would like more of in terms of cell dehydration. The last piece I'm going to do is a little tiny demonstration of this cell thing again. So we're going to do yellow again for the inside layer of the cell. We're going to do green for the outside layer this time. So there's your, this membrane here is way too thick, but whatever. Really, the membrane's fairly thin, but I'm going to show you something. So when the cell starts to dehydrate, or there's dehydration, that means the water out here, let's do the water here. That means the water out here, right? The water out here is going less. So if there was normally, say, 5 of these, conceptual model of how much volume of water is around the cell, and now there's only 3 of them, then there's less water outside the cell, see? And the cell has to poop into that and take in nutrients. So if there's less water outside the cell, there's going to be less water inside the cell over some period of time. And then you're H2O deficient, and the cell will start to shrink and turn into, let's do the green. And again, it'll shrink and turn into a kind of a raisin. It might get that small. And then what's happening now is there's excessive sodium inside the cell because the pump can't pump it out. And there's excessive potassium also outside the cell. And then that causes the cell to dehydrate more. Or you can have the opposite happen and get hypertension where the cell will draw in the water because sodium draws water to itself. So then you have this, you could have the opposite happen where the cell's actually still dehydrated, but it's big bloated cell. And the way that plays out generally is I had a girlfriend that she'd eat wheat. And she said, it feels like my cells gain water retention when I eat wheat. So there's the inflammatory cascade there. Wheat causes some kind of crazy inflammatory reaction where her cells can't even keep their water balance correct. And you know what happens when you get too much water? You look bigger and you weigh more. And then we call that dampness in Chinese medicine. Thanks for watching, folks. This was a long time coming. I was glad to get this over with. Your cell health, histamine, hydration. So make sure you're getting raw fats in your diet. I think one of the number one hydrating fats is raw butter and raw flax oil with some dairy fats. If you're having like cottage cheese with flax oil or flax seeds, that's kind of huge because you're getting the protein with the saturated fat, healthy, and then the raw. And if you want to try raw eggs, raw honey, and raw butter, puree that. That's a nice snack, and you could add vanilla or fruit to that. Semi-cleanse worthy. It's high calories, so if you're needing that, then. And I promised someone yesterday that I was going to do a blood pressure check, so I'm going to do that right now, and I might do a quick update on my my health parameters because I haven't done that blood pressure check. Thank you so much, folks. Health Alchemy Cleansing Day 13 video blog.